Finally, it's here. 2024 is amongst us, a year that media and business mogul Patrick Bet-Davis believes is going to be one of the most chaotic years that we've seen in a long time. And I'm on record agreeing with politically, geopolitically, and economically, 2024 has all of the ingredients to be a completely turbulent year. But what does this mean for your personal finances, your savings and credit building goals, to be specific? In order to answer that question effectively, we have to go back in time just a little bit to the first quarter of 2020 to give backdrop to how we got here in the first place. 2020, first quarter of the year, we get introduced to a virus that takes the medical community and the media by storm. The government has to implement policies to shut down pretty much all human function for an extended period of time until we figure out what this virus is, how to contain it, and how to continue to function as humanity without spreading this virus that had turned out to be deadly. In the process, unfortunately, that brought the economic system to a grinding halt. The economic system here in the US is based on debt and consumerism, basically meaning money has to be borrowed to be brought into existence, and people have to spend money to keep the system going. When government policies are put in place to shut the economy down, that basically means no spending, no borrowing. When that happens, the government is forced to now figure out how to keep the economic system going while people aren't working and they're not spending money. So they come up with the idea that they're going to pump money in the system. They collaborate with the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve agrees that they're going to participate in this by implementing what's called quantitative easing, the lowering of interest rate and the pumping of money into the economic system. The government implements fiscal policies that puts money directly in the hands of consumers and directly in the hands of businesses at a rate that we've never seen before. So what happens? 2020, 2021, and 2022, the federal government moves forward and the Federal Reserve moves forward with these policies. They put money in the hands of individuals and in the hands of businesses. In the backdrop of this, we have an ugly side effect brewing in the background. What's that side effect? Inflation. What this basically means is that the cost of goods and services starts to rise at a rapid pace. And this is ugly because what happens if it's not contained, that means that things start to get way more expensive than the average consumer can afford, as well as putting a lot of pressure on businesses. So what happens in that scenario? The Federal Reserve unfortunately ignores it for months at a time. And they basically say that inflation is not a concern, though the amount of money pumped in the system was completely unprecedented. You have more dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services. That basically means that if you don't have the goods and services that increases with the amount of money put into the system, that the same amount of goods and services has to become more expensive because there's more dollars chasing it. The Federal Reserve ignores it, up until they're forced to acknowledge it. And when they finally acknowledge it, they do it in a pretty negative way. They state that inflation is only possible due to the issues in the supply chain. And when that's resolved, inflation will be transitory, the epic and transitory, basically stating that inflation will be in and out of our system so quickly that we won't have to worry about it and that the Federal Reserve will not have to pivot its policies. Well, unfortunately, they're forced to admit that they were wrong, that basically inflation was not transitory. They're forced to admit this about late 2021, early 2022, in which point they make a massive reversion of their policies into what's called quantitative tightening, where they now increase interest rates and try to pull money out of the system to slow down spending, slow down borrowing, and slow down the tightening of a very hot labor market. All of these things contributing to inflation. So the Federal Reserve gets to work. They implement economic tightening, which they've done from 2022 to the time of this recording at the end of 2023, in which case the Federal Reserve raised rates at a faster pace and higher pace than we've seen in 40 years. And as far as the speed and veracity, ever. That being the case, that brings us to where we are today. How did that affect the economy? How did that affect savings products and credit related products? Well, for savings, it was a gift. Because of the Federal Reserve's increase in interest rates, this allowed banks to start paying depositors more on their money, higher rates than we've seen in a very long time. On the flip side of that, those who were in variable-based debt saw interest rates spike as well. One of the highest and most common forms of variable-based debt, credit card debt, which we've seen spike to over $1 trillion at the time of this recording, the highest it's ever been. So what does that mean for you going into 2024? Well, the Federal Reserve is stuck in an extremely complicated situation because we now have a year where the federal government going to be incentivized more than ever to continue to spend money. We have a major war going on in Europe, a very hot war going on in the Middle East. We have political instability going on with the 2024 elections going on. And we also have the economic system and concerns of depression if the Federal Reserve were to keep up the tightening of its interest rates. We have a banking system that's struggling as well with the higher interest rates and on and on. So what that basically means, the Federal Reserve is stuck in a situation where it has to decide when it needs to pivot. And many analysts believe the Federal Reserve is going to pivot in 2024, meaning that they're going to revert again back to an easing of the economic policy and bring rates down. Now, mind you, in the backdrop of all of this chaos that's taking place in the 2020s, we've had massive spikes in the real estate market, stock market reaching new highs, and a resurgence in crypto. All of that having been the case, assets inflating when the economic policies are at ease versus them being compressed when the economic policies are tightened. Patrick Bet-Davis believes that the Federal Reserve starts to loosen too soon, that assets will go back to shooting through the roof. Real estate valuations will go up because more people will be able to afford real estate, because affordability will inflate because interest rates will come down. That also includes the stock market. More people will be able to borrow money and spend money, increasing the revenue of companies, which will in turn increase their earnings, which will translate to higher stock valuations. This is going to ripple out throughout the economy. If you are saving money, this basically means when the Federal Reserve pulls down rates, you are going to be forced into a situation where you are no longer going to be able to receive decent returns on your savings. That basically means you may have to take on more risk or start to get a deficit again from what you're earning on your savings and deposit products versus what inflation is chewing away at that savings. Basically meaning interest rates coming down, inflation is likely to increase again, and savings products, CDs, savings, high yield savings accounts, will start to pay less while inflation is starting to creep back up. On the flip side, if you're in debt, this could mean that the increase in interest rates will come to a halt when it comes to variable rate debt. This could be a good thing if you're stuck in credit card debt, because that basically means that rates will pause in increasing. Unfortunately, they probably won't drop very much. So how do you navigate just the basic breakdown that I've given on the economic turbulence set for 2024? Well, one of the first things I would recommend you do is stabilize and increase your income. You're going to have to get a stable and higher income. You need to get over the top of any debt that you have. And if you're saving money, you need to be increasing that savings rate. Now, the next thing you're going to have to do is be privy. If you are saving money, what is your economic strategy, or your personal finance strategy rather? How are you going to maintain against the fact that interest rates are coming down? You're going to start to get paid less on your savings. The number one thing you can do is try to catch some of these CD rates at the highest rate possible at the time of this recording and lock them in for as long as you possibly can to buy yourself time to figure out what you're going to do with your money longer term. If you can get a 9-month, 1 year, 2 year CD at 4, 5, 6%, that's where you need to be. High yield savings will come down really fast if the Federal Reserve starts to cut interest rates. If you're in debt, you need to increase your income. You need to hammer away at that debt as soon as you can. If you have access to capital still, if you're still pre-approved for credit cards, if you still have access to these things, try to find 0% balance transfer cards. Look for cards that specialize in lower interest rates. They're out there. A good example would be Chase's Slate card. It's just one example of a credit card that earns no rewards points, but is known for a long extended 0% interest on purchases and balance transfers, as well as a lower than average rate on its interest rates in relevance to other credit cards in the marketplace. So basically what that means is you're transferring your balances from higher interest rate cards to a 0% card for an extended period of time. At the time of this recording, 21 months. Once that interest rate kicks in, if you haven't paid that balance down, you'll at least be dealing with an interest rate that is lower than the industry averages, and as well has the ability to go down on an annual basis as a feature of that credit card. You're going to have to be prepared for interest rates to shift, assets to potentially inflate, and the economy to start to boom again. This could be a plus depending on what position you're in. If you're a saver, it's going to get harder for you to find risk-free ways to save. If you're a borrower, this could be a rough time for you if you're in debt, but if you're a borrower that's looking to capitalize, get access to cheaper money to invest in businesses and invest in assets, this could be a wonderful time for you, because rates will start to come down and will allow you to get your hands on more affordable capital to deploy into great business opportunities and great investment opportunities. This is just a quick overview of what 2024 could look like. We're going to delve into this video by video, bit by bit, on how to navigate to be profitable, prosperous in 2024. I want you guys to comment down below. Let me know what you think about 2024 and the breakdown I've given you and the context in which you know it. Break down and give us a comment down below and let me know where you are. Where's your industry? Where's your career? Where's your savings goals? And are you in debt? Are you a borrower looking to capitalize on cheaper rates? Comment all of that down below. New viewers, welcome in. You want to learn more about myself and this channel? Start in the description section. Work your way to the about section on the channel. I want you guys to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.